If I asked you to imagine a tough, resourceful Aussie farmer who keeps on in the face of adversity, how many of you would picture a male face? Well, women are farmers too, and while they might battle the same climatic and financial forces as their male counterparts, some confront an additional hurdle: sexism. The resilience and grit that's helped 8 women farmers succeed in what some regard as a man's domain is the focus of a new book. Author Liz Harful hopes both city and country readers enjoy discovering what makes these remarkable women tick.
Too much flour, they don't
add creases on the bottom.
The last time Landline viewers met freelance rural journalist Liz Harful, she was snapping photos and taking notes in the cooking pavilion at the Brisbane Ekka show.
It's a very fine thing with a sponge, isn't it? You've just got seconds between
perfection. Right, exactly right.
Back then, she was encouraging Queensland's best show cooks to reveal their recipes and the secrets of their success. She just won one of the world's top cookbook awards for her book on South Australia's Blue Ribbon show cooks. And with all the work involved in doing a national version, thought life couldn't get much busier. But someone was watching our show.
I was very fortunate that when I appeared on Landline in that segment on show cooking, one of the people watching was Claire Kingston. She was looking for someone to help tell the stories of rural Australia from a women's perspective. And I got that dream approach that an author very rarely gets, which is the publisher calling you and asking if you'd like to write for them. We settled very quickly on a theme which was inspired for me by a couple of women that I already knew, of women who at some stage in their lives had run their own farm.
Liz Harful was told she'd have trouble finding 8 women to profile, because what woman would run a farm if there was a man in their life to do it for her, or if she had the option of doing something else with her life? But the doubters were wrong.
Well, in a couple of weeks I had 40 or 50 different women to choose from, and my hardest task was selecting them.
Liz Harful narrowed the list down to 8.
And I had a very difficult choice to go through. I was trying to choose women from across Australia, women from different farming enterprises and women with different personal stories who were prepared to step up and put themselves in the limelight and share their stories.
The book was launched at the Rural Media Press Club of South Australia. It's a cracker book, Liz. Congratulations, you've chosen well. The stories are inspiring and compelling, and I needed a hanky for a few. All the women were there, and the sellout crowd heard from 3 of them, including West Australian Mary Nesbitt, who was left with a farm to run and 4 young children to bring up when her husband died suddenly.
I don't really think it hit me for quite a few months then, and I had 4 little ones. I just had to, for their sake, just keep going, and they kept me going, and my faith, and I would say the community.
Mary learned how to run the place, and the children all pitched in. It was a battle, but the property's now in the hands of the next generation.
On the podium, please.
Queenslander Keelan Mailman is the first Aboriginal woman to run a cattle station.
Elders give me a role of being able to, preserve and protect our cultural heritage is the most important thing to me. I've went through a lot of obstacles between, being a woman, not only that, being an Aboriginal woman on top of that, then being a single parent on top of that. So I made it work.
Now, Nan,
One of the women, Nan Bray, grew up on an Idaho cattle ranch in the US. A scientist, she ran the CSIRO's Marine Division in Hobart before growing superfine merinos in Tasmania's Midlands.
And a lot of my colleagues in CSIRO looked at me and said, "You're doing what?"
In Idaho, sheep are called range maggots.
And I will say that my family, which would be 4 generations of cattle ranchers, definitely have looked down their noses at me for this.
Tasmania's Midlands is famous for superfine wool. But Nan Bray, a newcomer, a foreigner and a woman, has turned traditional pasture feeding and flock grouping regimes on their head.
They're sort of the group that goes, "Don't even want to know you." And then there's a group that's kind of going, let's have a look at this. We'll watch you for a while and see what happens and see. We're going into, I think, probably another dry cycle now, and so it's like, let's see if she comes unstuck.
Because of endurance, grit, innovative thinking and talent, the women in Liz Harful's book pushed through the glass ceiling.
Hi, I'm good, thanks, Fiona. How are you? I'm good, thank you.
But above all, Liz says she chose them because they're really good farmers.
I was looking for a strong personal story, but they also just had to be good farmers. Yeah, so good farmers with an interesting personal story, and for many of the women there was a really important issue that they wanted to talk about as well, and I unashamedly embraced that and wanted to take the opportunity to convey some of the really important aspects of living in a regional community.
Can you write to Dorothy?
Dorothy? Normal spelling of Dorothy?
Yes, normal spelling, yes, Dorothy, that'd be lovely.
Anything in particular that resonates with you, that stayed with you out of the 8?
I think the deep spiritual connection they all have with the places they farm, that connection to the land. It's more than a way of earning a living, it's everything to them. And it's sustained their families and their communities. That rang really strongly with all of them.
And just a month after its release, Liz Harful's book has made it into the top 10 non-fiction book sales list.